look at the NPV. This one you're very much familiar. It's pretty easy. So the net present value method of investment appraisal uses discounted cash flows to evaluate capital investment projects. It uses the cost of capital as well, or target rate of return, to discount all cash flows and outflows to their present values. So you're using the discounting factors to discount your future cash flows to today so that you're in a position to make a decision. So we know that a positive net present value indicates that an investment project is expected to give a return in excess of the cost of capital and will therefore lead to an increase in shareholders' worth. So this formula, I know we have done investment appraisal and NPV together, so this shouldn't be an issue. So cash flows occurring during a time period are assumed to occur at the end of that time period. That's what it is. So we have this, guys. Calculation of the net present value. Calculation of net present value of project B using a tabular approach. So you have your cost of capital of 10%, which you put there and get your net present value. So let's just go to that question. Where is it? So having these values, guys, you have these values. So what you do, you say that divided by 1.1, because your discount factor is 10%. So it's 1 plus the discount factor of 10%, giving 1.1. Take it down like this and take it up, down like this. So meaning that your 1,300 that is going to be made in year 6 is going to be equivalent to how much now, because you want to make a decision. On discounted cash flows, guys, on capital budgeting, this is capital budgeting. So there is no way you can have actuals and you start discounting actuals. It will never happen. But I've seen it in your assignments. I've seen it. Trust me, I've seen it. That is more or less like going against logic, going against theory, going against everything that represents good.
What's that, coach?
Which one?
What you're saying that you've seen in the assignment?
I've seen some assignments. I'm not going to mention the name. I've seen some assignments where someone tells you to calculate your NPV or what to do your investment appraisal for a project that has already been incurred, the costs that have already been incurred. Then you start discounting them for what?
Oh, okay.
Then you are told to recommend whether to go ahead with the project or not to. I've seen it. Trust me. So this is how you do it. You have your cash flows and you just put your discount factors. All you're actually saying, because of time value of money, you are saying that the 1,300 or 1.3 million that you would generate in year 6 is equivalent to 734 now. So you're making a decision based on the present values rather than the future values. So your future values, you are discounting them to today so that you're in a position to make a decision. Which gives you your net present value of 621. From there now, guys, you will be required to calculate your internal rate of return. Your IRR, I repeat, your IRR equals to 0 NPV equals to equity return. So your internal rate of return ideally is supposed to be higher than the cost of capital. Get it right, guys. And the formula is very easy. Is IRR equals to discount factor 1 plus plus NPV 1 divided by NPV 1 minus NPV 2 times discount factor 2 minus discount factor 1, comma now. So we know that we have the discount factor 1. Others would call it R1, is 10%. The discount factor 2 will use 20%. You will look at that table of yours. If it goes up 20%, that is what you use. NPV 1 equals to 621, depending on your, if you are using Excel, it's 621. If you are just doing your calculator, whatever, it's about 618. So we need to find NPV 2. So here we'll do like this and plug it in there and change to 20%. So have 1 there. Then we'll do like this to say this divided by 1.2, giving us these numbers. So meaning the present values would be the 5,000 there for the cash flows times 1. So net present value would be 953 negative, which is NPV 2. You pick this like that. So your formula. So if I say NPV 1 minus NPV 2, how much does it give me? It would be NPV 1 minus NPV 2 gives me that. So I can now calculate my internal rate of return easily and comfortably. So I would say equals discount factor 1, which is this 10%, plus, even if I don't do the board mass, I know that it will sort itself up. NPV 1, this divided by NPV 2. Once I have these numbers, I'll say times discount factor 2, which is 20% minus 10%. So internal rate of return is 13.9%. But if I was using Excel, which is very accurate, I would say equals IRR. Then I push in the values, which are present values here, from here. it would give me that. That's very accurate. But using the formula is 13.9. So I'll leave it at 13.9. So this is how you calculate your internal rate of return. So let's just go to the notes.
Coach, I have a question.
Oh, okay, sorry. Please ask.
Okay. On calculating IRR, when you are getting the discounting factor 2, should it be above the first one?
When you are getting yes, the aim of the second discount factor, you come up with a discount factor that gives you a negative NPV, because your internal rate of return is between your positive number and your negative number. Remember that your internal rate of return is 0 NPV. So it is just a mass. You don't even think on this one, Doreen. Just when you check on that table of yours, that present value table, the last discount factor is 20. So we use 20.
Okay.
Don't even hesitate on that one. Please don't hesitate.
All right.
So advantages of net present value, guys. It is based on discounted cash flows. It takes account of the time value of money, right? Net present value uses cash flows rather than accounting profit, which is very important because it's hard cash. It takes account of both the amount and the timing of project cash flows. It takes account of all relevant cash flows over the life of an investment project. So you need to also understand that NPV is the most preferred method of investment appraisal, academically so. Disadvantages of the net present value method. It has been argued that net present value is conceptually difficult to understand because of those present values, but this is hardly a realistic criticism. It has also been pointed out that it is difficult to estimate the values of the cash flows, cash inflows and outflows over the life of a project, which are needed in order to calculate its net present value. But this difficulty of forecasting future cash flows is a problem of investment appraisal in general and not one that is specific to a particular investment appraisal technique. Remember that you want to project, say, for 20 years, 25 years, whether you're using the NPV or any other thing, it is the issue of just projecting to the future gives you certain challenges, and you cannot apportion those challenges to NPV. That would be very unfair. So the internal rate of return, we have already looked at it, is if the cost of capital used to discount future cash flows is increased, the net present value of an investment project also goes down. So you find that as you increase your cost of capital, your NPV will be falling, as you may see in this picture, in this chart. As your discount rate is going up, there is increasing, your NPV starts reducing up until it reaches your what? It reaches only, it goes up to 0, it falls up to 0, which now gives you your internal rate of return. So your internal rate of return, Doreen, is between where you're having positive numbers, where you have a discount rate which is lower, and where you have a discount rate which is higher. Where you have a discount rate which is lower, cost of capital which is lower, it actually takes your NPV up.
It's positive.
Whereas where the discount rate is increasing, it actually takes, your NPV starts falling. So when you're computing internal rate of return, you want to do some extrapolation, we normally have the discount factor that gives you a positive NPV and another discount factor that gives you a negative NPV, so that you have a zero NPV, and that zero NPV, that is your internal rate of return. Great?
Yes.
So go back to the question. So guys, I'm giving you 10 minutes to do your NPV and internal rate of return. On PI, guys, will not take time to be just 5 minutes on profitability index. So do your NPV and your internal rate of return, 10 minutes. What's got an internal rate of return? That. Always remember that on Thursday you'll be writing your exams, your tests, whatever. Always remember that.
We know.
You don't know, because if you knew, then you're going to do these things correctly. So remember that. So if you are to look at this question, you don't need to waste so much time. Your scrap value at the end of the year is essentially your cash inflows. So your cash inflow. So if we go to the question, I just want to change those numbers that were in there. It shows you that a company is considering acquisition of a machine for 80,000, which will save cost for 20,000 per annum. So you have 20,000 per annum here. You have 20,000 per annum, and you are told that a company is considering acquisition of a machine for 80,000. So you have minus 80,000 there. But what you have again in the 5th year, which is your scrap, in the 5th year, you have a scrap value of how much? Of 10,000. But this amount would be the present value for the 5th year. And this side.
Coach, isn't it the 6th year?
Why 6th year?
It's 5.
It's 5th year.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, I'm with you now.
So you have your net present value of 2025, and if you use your 20%, you will be in negatives. So if you are to come here, these are the numbers that you're going to get. It will be 11.1. Tamara, congrats, you got it. You got 11.1% as internal rate of return, right?
Yes, Coach.
Was it coincidental, or did you factor in the scrap value?
Yes. Well, actually, what I did is I added it, so it was 30,000. I think that's what I got.
Okay, which is still fine. That's okay. Okay, congrats. So having done that, guys, it will not take long. I'll just introduce what this profitability index is in under 5 minutes. Then you can go and rest. Because by definition, we know the formula for profitability index, that it is present value divided by the NPV. So we know that. So divided by the initial outlay, sorry. So let me go to the presentation. So the profitability index. If a company does not have sufficient funds to undertake all projects that have a positive and net present value, it is in a capital rationing situation where you have to use your profitability index and pick the ones that you think would make sense. So I think the NPV method cannot be used to rank investment projects if capital is rationed. However, since ranking by NPV may lead to incorrect investment decisions, so this is why we'll have to use profitability index so that we rank the projects according to their importance. So the profitability index, guys, ideally it must be above 1, and its present value of future cash flows divided by the value of initial capital invested. If there is no restriction on investment capital, all projects with a profitability index greater than 1 should be accepted. So if you go back to that question, you want to find the value, you want to find the profitability index, it's very easy. All you do, you find the present value. So your present value here would be your PV. Your present value would be this. Sum, you ignore the capital outlay in year 1. So you just pick those numbers. This is your present value. So you know that you have your present value of that. So meaning that your PI would be, your profitability index would be your present value here divided by your capital outlay of 80,000, which gives you 1.03. So if the profitability index is less than 1, then just know that you're in problems. If it is 1, it means that you have ideally recouped what you had invested in. So,
Coach, how did you find that 82 again?
okay, the 80 present value. You are adding from year 1 up to year 5, the present values.
Oh, okay.
25.
So if tomorrow I'll be in a good mood, you just pray that I'm in a good mood tomorrow. If I'll be in a good mood tomorrow, around the same time, we can look at the relevant cash flows. I can explain for the second or third or fourth time on relevant cash flows and see what is relevant and what is not relevant in there. So I'll post the I'll post the videos and the presentation on the financial management forum. Myra and Tamara, you are actually part of that financial management forum. I included you so you can still pick whatever materials are applicable to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.